Today we're doing a deep dive review of Empire Flippers, one of the biggest online marketplaces for buying and selling businesses. But before we get into the analysis, let me explain why our review actually has some standing. Unlike most reviews you'll find, we've actually used Empire Flippers to buy a business. We've been through the entire process, dealt with their team, and completed a transaction. And not only that, we've since done multiple deals in the online business space, including a few purchases and a couple of exits. And so this review is purely based on our experience using the platform. We'll be sharing both the good and the not so good, because anyone investing 6 or 7 figures into a business needs to know exactly what they're getting into. We're talking about established businesses that are typically valued between $300,000 and around $2 million. So you should note that Empire Flippers does sometimes handle 8-figure business transactions as well. So if you're looking to sell a smaller business that may be valued under this $300,000 mark, then this probably isn't for you. So with all this in mind, let's start this review by going through our experience using the platform. Now, back in 2017, our first online business purchase was through Empire Flippers. Now, what stood out wasn't about the process itself, but several specific elements that serious buyers need to know about. First was their response time and their communication. Now, unlike other platforms we've used in the past, there was no waiting around for days between interactions. When we showed interest in a listing, we got access to the relevant information within 24 hours. But more importantly, there was interaction between both the broker and the seller. So there was no playing telephone or having to deal with unnecessary middlemen. And what we also noticed with this platform was that there was no creation of artificial urgency. They gave us time to do the actual due diligence, which is actually important considering you're going to be purchasing something for maybe 6 or 7 figures. And the third standout was their migration support. Now, we're fairly technical, but we've seen how this can help less technical buyers. They provide detailed documentation for transferring all the important information. And this includes everything from Amazon accounts to complex WordPress setups. And they don't just connect you with the seller and then disappear. They actively manage the migration process. And finally, Empire Flippers consistently handles the critical elements well, especially the verification of financial claims and traffic sources. And here's something that we've discovered personally using the platform that isn't as widely discussed. Their vetting process actually helps sellers as well. When we were selling, their pre-screening process actually eliminated time wasters. Every buyer we spoke to was verified and capable of actually making the purchase, which is extremely valuable when you're trying to both run a business and sell one at the same time. And so that's our experience of using the platform. But to really understand why these elements matter, let's look at what Empire Flippers actually is and how it evolved to where it is today. So the platform actually started back in 2011 as AdSense Flippers, and it was initially focused on smaller content sites. But here's what's interesting. They've evolved precisely because they identified exactly what was missing in the market. And so today they've transformed into a huge full-service broker, able to handle multiple business types across significant value ranges. We're talking about Amazon FBA stores, content and affiliate websites, SaaS businesses, and also e-commerce operations. But the real story isn't about what they can handle, it's their process. As we mentioned earlier, every listing goes through a significant vetting process. And this isn't just basic verification. They'll dive into things like traffic source, revenue authenticity, customer concentration risks, and also growth trends and limitations. Now, something that may be particularly relevant to you if you're looking at buying something between $300,000 and $2 million, they're maintaining a 94.1% success rate on sales, which can matter a lot because failed deals can often waste a lot of time and resources. At this point, if you're considering selling your online business or just want to benchmark valuations in your space, then we've added a link in our description to their valuation tool. It's free, takes just a couple of minutes, and while it's just a starting point, it's based on their actual sales data. They typically have around 300 active listings, but unlike other marketplaces, they're all vetted businesses, not speculation plays or starter sites. They're real businesses with verified earnings. So with this in mind, let's look at the type of buyer or seller that will be best served by Empire Flippers. Now let's be very clear. This platform isn't for everyone, and that's by design. So let's start with the people with established businesses looking for an exit. We're talking about operators with consistent profit history, clean financials, documented processes, and with stable or growing revenue. Second are people who are looking for deals between $300,000 and $2 million. Now, while they can handle 8-figure plus deals, this mid-range is their sweet spot in terms of deal flow, buyer competition, time to close, and support quality. Another group would be digital entrepreneurs, and this includes digital entrepreneurs, particularly those in the Amazon space. However, Empire Flippers is not ideal for smaller operations. If you're doing under 3K a month profit, the platform's fees and processes won't be very cost effective for you. And also, you should probably avoid it if you're just looking for a quick sale. Their vetting process takes weeks, not days. So if you need to exit under a month, this is not the platform for you. Now then, let's dig into how this platform works in practice. So let's analyze what really works and what doesn't with Empire Flippers. And we'll break this down based on real experiences, not just surface level features. So let's start with the good. Now first, that 94.1% success rate we mentioned isn't just marketing. It's a direct result of their vetting process. Every business goes through full P&L verification, and the listing quality is consistently high. You're not wading through hundreds of unverified businesses, just hoping to find something legitimate. And also their secure payment handling is pretty robust. They use a dual-stage escrow system that protects both parties during the transaction period. This is a really key feature, and we've seen multiple deals fall through in our experience, just based on the migration system. And speaking of migration, their support here is really comprehensive. They provide detailed transfer documentation, technical assistance, supplier relationship handover support, and they also have post-sale verification periods. However, there are some limitations that buyers and sellers need to understand. First are the fees, and these are higher compared to the competitors. For deals under $1 million, these typically are around 15%. Now yes, that is a substantial amount compared to other platforms, but it's important to understand why. Unlike lower cost platforms, they are actively involved in every stage of the transaction. The wire race issue is real, especially for premium listings. When a high quality listing hits the marketplace, you often have to do your initial due diligence, your verification, and then submit an offer. This isn't artificial scarcity. It's simply the reality of a marketplace where every business is vetted. Also, if you're selling a business, getting your listing approved can take quite a bit of time. We're talking between 3 and 4 weeks usually for the vetting process to complete. Now this can feel painfully slow, but this thoroughness is precisely what keeps the platform's quality high. And finally, there's also limited support for smaller businesses. It's not really a limitation, it's more of a focused choice. So you're likely better off being served somewhere else. So now let's look at the actual data behind Empire Flippers' performance based on both their public statistics and our own observations. Now first is the average time to sell, but this number needs some context. For quality businesses priced between $500,000 and $2 million, we're often seeing faster timeframes. Sometimes the deals can complete as quick as 45 to 60 days. And what these numbers indicate is that Empire Flippers has created its own market. They're too expensive for hobby sellers, but they're more systematic than traditional brokers. Now let's compare them to other platforms in the space. So let's look at how Empire Flippers compares to alternatives in the market, particularly focusing on what matters for serious buyers and sellers. Now the most common comparison is with Flipper. While both platforms list online businesses, the differences are significant. So let me show you some actual examples. Now here's a $500,000 Amazon FBA business on Empire Flippers versus a similarly priced one on Flipper. Now notice the difference in verification depth, the financial documentation, the traffic validation, and the customer data. The barriers to entry are considerably different. On Empire Flippers, every listing goes through that vetting process we discussed earlier. But compared to Flipper, it seems like anyone can just list a business for a small fee. And this has a significant implication for buyers. So just from these alone, you can see there's a massive difference in quality. Now, this isn't to say that other platforms don't have their place. For example, if you do have a smaller business, you might be better elsewhere. But for verified, substantial businesses, these differences are crucial. So knowing all this, let's wrap this up with our final take. So having covered our own experience with Empire Flippers, combined with this analysis, here's what we believe about the platform. Now, it's certainly not perfect, but it's currently one of, if not the most reliable platforms for businesses to buy and sell. Now, as we mentioned earlier, their fees are typically higher, but this can be justified through their vetting process, their comprehensive migration support, and also then their verified buyer pools. Now, you may have noticed that we've mentioned fees quite a few times in this video, but it is an important factor to take into account. When you're dealing with 6 or 7 figure transactions, paying a premium for proper vetting and verification processes often ends up being a cheaper long-term option. So if you're serious about buying or selling an online business, then you should seriously consider using Empire Flippers. Yes, there will be cheaper alternatives, but very few offer the same levels of verification and support. And so if you are considering selling your businesses, then we'd really encourage you to check out our link in the description for their valuation tool. Again, it's free and it takes just a couple of minutes, and it will give you a realistic idea of how much your business is worth in the current market. And along with that, you'll get access to our comprehensive due diligence Google Sheets document. This contains over 100 specific questions that we've developed through our experience of buying and selling businesses. Remember, this isn't about finding the cheapest platform, it's about finding the right platform for your specific needs. And based on our experience, Empire Flippers delivers where it matters most, in successful, verified transactions. Thank you very much for watching. We really hope this helped, and we'll see you in the next video.